The joint meeting of the Boards of Directors of San Joaquin Hills TCA and Foothill Eastern TCA is hereby called to order. I would like to ask Director Ferguson to deliver the invocation, followed by Vice Chair Connors to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay, please join me in prayer. Oh, Heavenly Father, we gather here today to look out for our communities and serve them with their best interests at heart. Please guide us to always do what is good. Please lead us in the direction of right versus wrong. Please allow our work as a team here at the TCA board to be meaningful and today's meeting be productive. In your name, we pray. Amen.
Amen.
As we prepare to salute the flag, I'd just like to remember that we celebrated Veterans Day this week, and as we affirm our allegiance to this country, I'd like us to remember the veterans who have borne the costs of America's wars and stood watch over America's peace. And let's keep in mind the thousands of dedicated women and men who are even now giving themselves in service to this country. We're grateful for the freedom we enjoy because of their willingness to serve. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much, ladies. Madam Clerk, roll call, please.
Chair Miniger,
Present.
Director Bain, Vice Chair Connors,
here.
Director Heft,
Here.
Alternate Ackley, Director O'Neill, Alternate Stevens,
Here.
Alternate Miller, Director Chafee, Director Ferguson,
Here.
Director Huang, Director Kring, Director Miller, Director Puckett,
Here.
Director Voights, Director Bartlett, here, Director Kelly, Chair Shea,
Yes.
Director Wagner, Director Chamberlain. We have quorum.
Thank you, ma'am. At this time, members of the public may address the boards regarding any items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the boards, but no action may be taken on off-agenda items unless authorized by law. Comments shall be limited to 2, but this time, because we only have one speaker, I want to use the chair's discretion to extend it to 3 minutes per person and 1 hour for comments unless different time limits are set by the chair, subject to the approval of the boards. If needed, we're going to have additional public comments, which I don't think that would be the case for this morning. The first speaker is Ms. Amanda Quintilla. Welcome to TCA.
Oh, good morning. I guess no one got the memo to be here today. So last August 2018, a fellow San Clemente resident and I read a letter from the CEO of the OCTA, Daryl Johnson, to Mr. Cramen. Within this letter, Mr. Johnson wanted to clarify misinformation that was sent to Senate Transportation Committee, specifically Senator Beal, regarding AB 382. Since Mr. Johnson was CC'd on several letters sent to Senator Beal, he wanted to address the statements by the TCA that appear to be out of context, potentially misleading, and overlook the regional planning process that underscores the benefits of a multimodal approach to help meet future population, housing, and employment growth needs. Most importantly, Mr. Johnson pointed out that the OCTA has been actively planning and helping to deliver effective solutions to meet the needs of a growing Orange County for more than 30 years. Then a couple months later, November 7th, 2018, Mr. Johnson sent another letter to Mr. Cramen, and he stated that our primary concern is that there is a clear conflict between OCTA's existing projects on the I-5 that either recently been completed, are set to begin, or have already started the planning process. The voters of Orange County entrusted the OCTA to deliver. In essence, the TCA is trying to usurp the results of an election in Orange County. Last night, the City of San Clemente had a town hall meeting regarding the EIR-EIS scoping phase. And a representative from the OCTA, Mr. Brochke, stated that there are conflicts between the OCTA and the Transportation Corridor agencies. Additionally, the OCTA is currently conducting more studies regarding these plans as well. There seems to be a dispute in the matter of jurisdiction between the OCTA and the TCA. Last year at the Senate Transportation Committee meeting, Chair Senator Beal stated that this is a local issue, but it is not. Last night at the San Clemente town hall meeting, Assemblyman Bill Rowe stated that this is not a local issue. Because this would affect Interstate 5, this is not a simple local issue, as it is a major artery between San Diego County and Orange County, which have a combined population of over 6 million people, with potential to significantly impact travel and commerce between the two regions. Everyone needs to know that this is a jurisdiction problem with the OCTA and the TCA, and ultimately, this matter needs to be resolved before any TCA plans go any further. Additionally, I urge you, all the directors, to go on the San Clemente City webpage and view our town hall meeting. There's a link there from my understanding, and you could listen to all of the wonderful speakers that we had last night. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. All right, we're getting to San Joaquin Hills consent calendar items 1 through 9. Do I have a motion to move the items as stated?
So moved.
Oh, this is only San Joaquin Hills. All right, it was moved by Director Miller and seconded by Director Kelly. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay. It was moved unanimously. Getting into the consent calendar items 1 through 7 and 10 through 11 for Foothill Eastern only. All right, it was moved by Director Chuck Puckett and it was seconded by Director Lucille Crane. All in favor? Say aye. All right, it was moved and approved unanimously. Moving on to the board business items 12 through 16th. 12 and 13 will be discussed jointly and then voted on separate items. The first one is San Joaquin Hills only. Ms. Amy Potter, the floor is yours.
Thank you. You have the audited financial statements in front of you for the year ended June 30th, 2019. And in accordance with best practices, we selected a new audit firm this year. So this is Crow's first year doing the audit. So there was a fresh set of eyes on our financial statements. And so I'd like to introduce Kathy Lai, who is the partner with Crow, and she will present to you her required communications regarding the audit results.
Thank you, Amy. Well, it's my pleasure to be here on behalf of Crow. We're certainly grateful for the opportunity to serve as your new external auditors. We have put together a brief agenda for you to just remind you of certain engagement objectives, to cover the audit results, and then as Amy mentioned, also the required communications. We were engaged by the agencies to perform an audit of the financial statements as of and for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2019. As a reminder, the objective of a financial statement audit, of course, is to express an opinion that the financial statements are presented in accordance with accounting principles generally accepted in the U.S., or otherwise known as GAAP for short. It's important to note that management is responsible for preparing those financial statements referenced above, and that we, as auditors, conduct our audit in accordance with generally accepted auditing standards. Those standards require that we plan and perform our audit to obtain reasonable assurance that those financial statements are materially correct. With respect to the audit results, I'm pleased to report that we have issued unmodified opinions. That is the highest level of assurance that we can express. My audit opinion states that the financial statements are fairly stated in all material respects in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, and we have presented that unmodified. So the term of art is somewhat confusing, but there are no exceptions that need to be noted. In terms of the required communications, it's really important under our professional standards that you understand that an effective audit means that there's two-way communications. So throughout planning as well as at the end of the respective audit, we have made such communications. During the plan scope and timing of the audit, we had met with the Finance and Investment Committee on July 24th to report what our plan scope was. And in terms of the significant accounting transactions, I wanted to point your attention, there are some subsequent events that are noted within the financial statements. First, there was the payment to OSERS to pay off the unfunded actuarial accrued liability with respect to pension. And then certainly for Foothill Eastern, there was a remarketed toll road refunding revenue bond, which reset the interest rates to about 3.5%. So we thought that that was important to point out to you. With respect to your significant accounting policies, I'll point you to the financial statements for both of the agencies. To footnote 2, that's where your accounting policies are noted. We have read through those policies. We believe they're appropriate to the particular circumstances of the entities and that those disclosures are neutral, consistent, and clear. It's also important to highlight accounting estimates just by their inherent nature. So just a couple of estimates that are included: the pension benefit obligations. I mentioned the OSER's cost sharing plan. There's a variety of actuarial valuations that have to take place to come up with that respective estimate. We have reviewed those actuarial valuations as well as the estimates and the assumptions, and we believe those to be materially correct. With respect to the corrected and uncorrected misstatements, I'm pleased to report that there were no material corrected or uncorrected misstatements. We did propose an entry to reclassify the accrued interest within net position categories. This was a reclassification only, so no bottom line impact, and so we believe that presentation is consistent with the prior year as well as in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. Other required communications, there were no significant difficulties or disagreements with management, and certainly we were not made aware of any consultation with other accountants should they not like the accounting treatment that we proposed. So I'm pleased to report that to the board. And at the conclusion of the audit, we had obtained a management representation letter. That essentially says management represents to us, to their best of knowledge, to their knowledge and belief, that they've disclosed all of the material transactions to us and that they believe that their financial statements are also materially correct. And then certainly, last but not least, it's important under our professional audit standards to highlight that we are independent of the transportation corridor agencies. And with that, I'm happy to address any questions that you might have.
Thank you very much, Ms. Lai. I'm very pleased that the board members decided to have you to change the auditors. We wanted to have more transparencies, more independence, and more objectivity from your side. So with that, I wanted to start with San Joaquin Hills TCA board members. Do you have any questions for Ms. Lai or Ms. Potter? Okay. Vice Chair Cynthia Connors.
I just want to say that it's not an easy thing to get an auditor's report that is unmodified. And it takes some work, and I appreciate the efforts of our staff to maintain our finances and financial records in an appropriate condition to end up with this result. So thank you.
Any other comments? With that, do I have a motion to approve as stated?
So moved.
It was moved by Chair Christina Shea and seconded by Director Janine Heft. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, it was approved unanimously. Now, moving on to the Foothill Eastern TCA board members. Do I have a motion to approve as stated? It was moved by Director Lucille Kreng and seconded by Director Huang. Or Director Kelly. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
It was approved unanimously. Moving on to item number 14. This is a joint item, but we are going to be voting independently. Ms. Potter, the floor is yours.
Thank you. This item is for a toll rate policy. This item was originally discussed with the Vision Ad Hoc. The recommendation there was to bring it forth or develop a policy and bring it forth through the Finance and Investment Committee, which is what we did. The committee unanimously moved this item forward to the board today. So really what we are looking at here is just formalizing the toll rate setting process that we've been following over the past 7 years, which is to implement the 2% very small inflationary type increases that were assumed within our financing documents. So this is important for us to formalize that to ensure that we meet our financial obligations. Plus it also provides greater predictability to those future toll rates. Also, formalizing this process is expected to enhance our credit ratings. And so the policy before you would be an automatic 2% increase each year. We would continue to utilize our traffic and revenue consultant to look at the impacts of those proposed increases or those increases that we would be implementing and include the results within the budget. It was also very important to the committee that We remain very transparent, and those rates are very visible, which we would continue to do. Of course, we would continue to post all of the rates on our website like we do today, and also include them in the budget. And they would continue to be implemented on or about July 1st of each year. If there were any toll rate adjustment that deviated from the automatic 2% increase, we would need to bring that back to the board for an approval. And so with that, the recommendation before you is to adopt the resolution that adopts the policy that is before you. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Any discussions?
Yes, thank you. Amy, just to, once again, just for my clarity, so this 2% would be just a standard every year, so we don't have to keep bringing it back, wasting time, staff time, because it's really just a cost of 8 cents to, what again is the total, up to 18 cents?
On Foothill, it's ranged from 2 cents to 8 cents, and on San Joaquin, it's from 1 cent to 17 cents.
Okay, so have an annual update that we have to discuss every year, having staff time applied to this. It seems to me it makes sense at that minimal rate. If it was a lot more, yeah, I would have a concern. But if the 2% is just barely under 20 cents per year, I would tend to think it makes sense. But I would like to hear from other board members as well. Okay, thank you.
Director Scott Boyd.
Yeah, obviously, I'm not a huge fan of rate increases, but as toll agencies go, our tolls in Orange County are fairly reasonable, but what I was wondering about, in years where we're having a bad market year or there's job problems, do we have the discretion as a board to pull that item, since we're going to be reviewing it every year? 'Cause it'll be on a consent calendar, will it not be?
Yes.
Or discussion?
No, it doesn't even need to go through as an item. It would just be an automatic increase. We would take the numbers that it generates and include that in the budget, but you would not need to vote on it if it were the automatic 2%. If it were something different that the board chose to do in 1 year, you would need to bring that forth, or we would bring it to you
So
as
in a
an
year
item
when
to
there's a
approve.
recession and people are struggling for money, is there a way for us to agendize that? I'd rather see maybe on a consent calendar, so at least it's on the, or can we bring it back?
So what I would recommend is, since the policy indicates that if it's something that deviates from the automatic increase, that a board member would bring that up, maybe through the budget process and say, this year I'd like to do something different, and then we would bring it forth as an actual item that you would need to approve that year.
I'm good with that, thank you.
Director Joe Mueller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I asked this question in the Investment Finance Committee, but how do we determine what the increases are today?
So what we did is, when we refinanced the bonds, so we refinanced Foothill Eastern in 2013 and San Joaquin in 2014, it was really important to us to build in just a very small inflationary assumption. And so we had to build in toll rate increases, you always do when you're assuming how you're going to make your bond payments. But what we had done is we were able to then structure our debt very conservatively so that we could only assume these very small increases. And so really that was the goal, is to make sure that we can keep that traffic on our system rather than pushing it off onto
So how did you determine what the increase was going to be?
And so we told the traffic and revenue consultant we want to just assume inflationary type. He looked at assuming those, and over time, the average inflationary rate it's actually about 2.5%, but I checked with him and it's fine for us to go with the 2% that we've been implementing over the past 7 years.
Well, thank you for that. The reason I asked that question is we have this same policy with our development impact fees. And it's important for people to understand, if we implement this, we are actually below what we could increase on the inflationary rate of 2.5%, where on our development impact fees, we use the construction index, I believe.
Correct.
But we've actually come in below that.
Yeah.
And that's important to know. You know, the interesting thing, though, is over 10 years, it's a 20% increase, correct?
It's it's 2% each year, but it's
2%
very
each.
small if you look at, especially in comparison to other toll facilities in the area. So, I could give you an example of a 10-year. So for instance, Windy Ridge, if we look at a $4.03 peak rate, that's without a discount, because we also, if you qualify, we apply a $1 discount to that, but that's the base rate. In 10 years, that would grow to $4.91. which is still very much within the reason of where toll rate should be.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Director Don Wagner.
Thank you. I appreciate the questions from Director Voights in particular because it's very clear that in the event we have an unusual situation, a boom economy, a bust economy, something that would require us to take a look at this automatic 2% increase, the tools are there, the mechanisms are there, which is awesome. I appreciate that. It also gives away the game. It gives away the game. This is a way to put toll increases on autopilot so that this board doesn't have to take a decision to increase tolls. It just happens automatically. And none of us are elected to this position. We're all elected somewhere else and find ourselves here. But I really think that we don't do the public that we are elected to serve and that we've taken an oath to serve when we join this board, hiding what we're doing. And that's the only reason, and Director Voights' question made that clear. The answers to his questions made that clear. This is to hide it. I can't support hiding toll increases. If I'm going to ask my constituents to give government more money, there ought to be a record of that. And I ought to have to answer to the public. And it's no answer to say, hey, some board did this a couple of years ago and it's just automatic. And by the way, it's not that much anyway, as we just heard from Ms. Potter. It may be not much to Ms. Potter, it may not be much to any one of us, but it may be a lot to our constituents. Let's own it. I'm a no vote.
Thank you, Director Wagner. Chair Christina Shea.
Yes, thank you. I just want to, and I really appreciate Supervisor Wagner's comments. I think many of us agree with that to a certain degree. But I would say that this 2% will be highlighted every year when we go through the budget process. It will be discussed, and it will be in our budget documents. So there will be no hiding of this 2%. It will be disclosed like all of our other budgetary documents are required by law to be disclosed. So I just don't want the public to think we're, bearing something here that's just not, accurate. But I appreciate your position, and I just disagree. So thank you.
Director Lisa Bartlett.
Thank you, Chair Manager. So when you talk about the proposed rates going up to potentially 17 cents on San Joaquin, there's no breakdown sheet in here. Is the 17 cents at Catalina View? Okay.
That's the peak hour, yes.
At peak hour. Yeah. Okay. I still have a concern about that, and I've raised it in committee and also up here on the dais at board meetings. So I travel that route pretty routinely, and there are a number of people who take that route and have to take it because of work. And they have to be there going through that area at a certain time. And the backup now is getting so significant during the morning AM peak hours and the PM peak hours. And to tell those folks, you're going to be sitting in traffic and more traffic year after year until we can get the fix to complete the fourth lane to make it consistent. So it goes 4 lanes, pinches down to 3, and then back to 4, and there's a huge backlog. But to tell those folks, we've got this project on the horizon. It's a couple years out, but you're going to still be sitting in traffic, and now you're going to be paying 17 cents more to come through at the peak hour. To me, there's a problem with that, and I think if we message somehow that we can move that project up, because it's going to really start impacting those frequent users of that particular road to be sitting in traffic every morning and every evening, paying more money, and we're not getting that project moving forward. That Catalina View project, to widen that to 4 lanes consistent, is a really critical project. I tell you, that's one of the #1 complaints that we get all the time relative to fixing things on the toll roads. So I know CEO wants to mention.
No, I think that's a great suggestion. We'll look for ways to accelerate that project. That's a great suggestion.
All right, thank you.
Director Scott Voights.
Director Wagner made a good point. We've all been elected to public office to represent the people, and that's why I did bring it up. It does now in the comments of Director Wagner that we're kind of running from a vote. So like I said, this no way we can put this on the consent calendar so there actually is a vote, a yay or nay on the increase that's before us. And so I think that, you know, if we have an annual increase that's slated to go to keep our, however you guys want to term it, our credit rating good or our traffic flow good, some of the reasons I hear that we need to do these increases. But to have us say a yay or nay vote, I mean, we're being elected by the people, and we shouldn't be hiding behind a annual increase to where we don't even have the right to say yay or nay on a consent vote. So if it's going to be on a consent calendar, it's an annual increase, yay. But the fact that, you know, it's before us all, and we all have an opportunity to pull it or vote yay or nay on it.
Your points are well taken. Director Janine Haft and then Director Joe Mueller.
Well, I'm sitting here listening to both sides, and I could see, you know, the merits on both sides. You know, obviously, the 2% is lower. I'd like to possibly offer a friendly amendment, and that would be we don't put this on the consent calendar, and we still look at it as, yeah, 2% would be what would be proposed, but it's not something that we just pass quickly and move on, because, yeah, there is a principle. It may be 17 cents, but I do understand there is a principle that, you know, we don't want to, you know, be charging people more to sit there regardless of what the amount is. So I guess I'm kind of hearing these arguments, and I'm thinking we definitely want to make sure that we are transparent in that way.
Thank you. Director Joe Mueller.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I struggled with this in committee, and I think they all know. I was a very tepid yes vote moving out to the board for a lot of the reasons that I just heard here today. Do we have a motion on this item yet? We don't, do we?
Not yet, but we
I'm
are
going to make a
about to.
motion on this, that we bring a 2% automatic increase back to the consent calendar every year. That way, it's there, we can vote on it, yes or no. And we don't have to go back into the budget and say, oh yeah, there's a 2% increase, we need to bring that out and talk about it. Let's just put it on the consent. It's still a policy, but we're going to vote on it annually. And I think that would be my motion.
Before we do so, Director Ferguson and then Director O'Neill.
Thank you, Chair Minigar. Ms. Potter, could you let us know what the average increase has been, say, in the last few years, maybe 5 years? Because maybe 2%, it's either, you know, worse or it's better.
So it's been 2%. Yes.
It's been 2%.
There was only 1 year that we deviated from 2%, which is where we were looking at just doing the main lines at a higher amount, so it averaged out to 2%, but it's been 2% every other year.
Okay, thanks.
Director O'Neill.
Sure. So Amy, it's probably worth coming back for a second. The rationale behind this is that in all of our bond financing, there are certain revenue assumptions, correct?
Correct.
And the revenue assumptions are essentially 2% each year.
Yes, they're a little bit higher, but we're fine with the 2% based on how things have been running. Yes.
Yeah. And so what we're instituting, if we were to move this forward, is essentially, you know, coming back around. Everyone here joined after these bonds have been financed, so everyone is still, we make decisions to make sure we're paying down those bonds. That's essentially the core function of this board. And so something like this, when we're making it policy, I go along with Director Mueller's thoughts here. I think that even if we had done it this way, it still wouldn't be hiding the ball. It's in every budget that we'd be looking at. And given that all of us either at some point have sat on a water board or are overseen by a water board, I mean, how many times have we seen water boards refuse to increase rates because it's a political decision, and then those rates ultimately have to be substantially increased simply because down the road they have to make up for those political decisions being made before. So it strikes me that in a decision like this, when we're tying it in at 2% each year, we're essentially helping future boards not have to make terrible decisions. So I would support putting it on the consent calendar. I have no problem with that. I just want to see a set rate, make sure that we're paying down our creditors and we're being seen as good stewards of that debt. Thanks.
All right, Chair Christina Shea.
Yes, thank you. I think this discussion is a good one. Let me ask you, Amy, because I know it's the continuity that we're looking for. Would we still be able to have this on the consent calendar, which is not a bother to me? Mm-hmm. Obviously, people could pull it off, but would that still get us to the suggested position that the bond ratings would be looking more stable by this process? Because I thought that if we just did it and it became a policy, without an approval every year, then we're kind of defeating what you're proposing here. But does this work, having it on the consent calendar as a compromise?
I think having a policy will help us.
Okay.
I think you bring up a good point, because one of the concerns from rating agencies is that while they've given us a lot of credit because the board has made the right decisions and implemented the rates as assumed in the bond documents, it is without a policy, it's really a question of whether future boards would do that. And so it's stronger if it's automatic, but I don't think that this would be a problem as long as we adopt a policy along with
That's
it.
what was my understanding. It's the policy I was concerned about that could be just pushed away, and I think that's important. So I think it might be a good compromise to have the policy along with the approval of consent calendar annually, and I'd be totally fine with that.
Very good. All right, at this juncture, either we adopt the resolution as stated, or we go for a substitute motion, which was presented by Director Joe Mueller.
It's not a substitute. This is the original motion.
All right,
Because we hadn't had one.
then
I'll
we go.
second his motion.
Okay,
Okay.
it was moved by Director Joe Mueller for San Joaquin Hills, and it was, oh,
I'll second it.
you are Foothill Eastern. No, he's on both, but you seconded. Oh,
I'm
we're
sorry,
not-
can we repeat?
Supervisor Wagner.
We're,
seconded.
we're not into Foothill yet. First is San Joaquin.
I'm sorry,
Hills.
can we repeat exactly what the motion is, please?
Sure.
It's to put the policy of the 2% increase on the consent calendar annually for a vote.
It's changed.
No, that's what it was.
It should be to adopt a policy of a 2% increase and to have the 2% increase show up on the consent calendar each year.
Yeah.
Yes, I think
Yeah.
that makes it better, yeah.
Sorry.
Okay, so it was moved by Director Joe Mueller, and it was seconded for San Joaquin Hills by,
Supervisor Wagner.
Don? Yeah.
it was seconded by Director Wagner. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Now for Foothill Eastern, it was moved by Director Craig, and it was seconded by Supervisor Chafee. Yes, you are. Yes, you are.
So it's done.
Okay, all right. It was moved by Director Joe Mueller, and it was seconded by Director Crane. All right, moving on to item
But we need to vote on it. Yeah, we just-
for Foothill Eastern. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, it was approved unanimously. Now, in the interest of time, let's see, because we are going to have a closed session. All right, we move to item number 15, and we'll see how the time goes.
Good morning, Rick Carrier, the Director of Technical Systems. This item is an update on the implementation of our new back office system and a contract extension request for operation and support of the legacy system to align those services with the revised project schedule for the new system. The back office system is the technology piece of customer service. It's a large, complex, highly integrated system made up of servers, databases, software, and interfaces that we use to process, manage, store transactions, account information, violations, images, and payments. It's the magic behind the website and the mobile app. It's also the system that our customer service representatives use to interact with our customers on the phone and at the walk-in center. The legacy system is about 20 years old, and we're in the process of replacing it with a newer version under a fixed price milestone-based contract. This is the updated schedule for the delivery of the new back office system. The green triangles on the left represent the completed milestones, and the elongated triangles on the right represent upcoming milestones. Design and development are nearing completion, and we will be getting into the formal test phases in the summer of 2020. These are the milestones that have been completed and the ones that remain. Most of the planning and design work has been done, and we're in the implementation phase right now. The bulk of the milestones that remain are for successful completion of critical tests. This slide shows the percent complete for the 4 general areas: hardware, design, development, and testing. All the hardware is installed and it's running right now. System design will be complete when the final changes to the 100% design document are finished, and software development work is finishing up in the various areas in the chart on the slide. The bulk of the testing that remains are for formal, structured, in-depth tests that verify that every requirement has been met, the system is performing as expected, and is ready for live operations. The original schedule anticipated delivery of the entire system at the end of 2019. So why is the go-live date for the new system moved out to 2020? There's a couple of reasons. First, our contractor Brick was overly optimistic about their ability to recruit high-quality, experienced developers in the current environment of near 100% employment. Brick was competing with the Googles and Amazons for these software developers, and it took longer than expected to assemble the full development team that Brick initially anticipated. Brick is fully staffed now with a team of very highly qualified developers, business analysts, QA staff, and engineers. Another aspect that contributed to the schedule extension are the innovations and increased functionality that TCA incorporated. Since we started the new back office system project at the beginning of 2018, the agencies have revised our account types and the procedures we use to manage transactions and payments in those accounts. We changed the way discounts are calculated. We transitioned to a different transponder technology, and we continue to refine the way we process unpaid transactions. Brick successfully integrated all these changes into the legacy system, but getting them into the new system, along with the required design changes, document revisions, testing, and implementation, lengthened the design, development, and testing phases. This brings me to the contract extension request for operation and support of the legacy system. That contract expires at the end of 2019, but we will still need a qualified contractor to operate and support the legacy system until the new back office system is accepted, which should happen at the end of 2020. We'll switch from the legacy system to the new system in December 2020, and then there will be a 3-month system acceptance period. Once the new system is accepted, Brick will decommission and retire the legacy system. I'd like to highlight the fact, excuse me, that even though we're asking for a contract extension for the legacy system, we aren't increasing the operations and support costs. We're only paying for operation and support of one system at a time. We'll pay the operations and support on the legacy system under the legacy system time and materials contract with fixed hourly rates until the new system is accepted. Then we'll retire the legacy system and start paying the operations and support on the new system under the new system time and materials contract. There's no cost overlap between the two systems. Staff is recommending the boards authorize the CEO to execute amendment number 4 to the Brick back office system operations and support contract to increase the contract value by a combined not to exceed amount of $2.97 million, inclusive of a 10% contingency, and extend the contract term to June 30th, 2021. This item was unanimously approved by the Toll Operations Committee at the October meeting. With that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much, Mr. Carrier. Any quick questions or discussions on this? Because we've discussed this in details during the committee's meeting. I don't see any. For San Joaquin Hills, do I have a motion to approve as stated? It was moved by Director Joe Mueller for both agencies, and it was seconded for Foothill Eastern by Director Scott Voice, and it was seconded by alternate Tiffany Ackley. Welcome to TCA as an alternate of Director Mike Munson.
It was not Director Voice, it was me seconding Mr. Mueller for both.
I beg your pardon.
As I did the last time for the last item.
Very good. So noted. Our city clerk, our TCA's clerk
Thank you
would
for the
make a note of
credit,
it.
Mr. Chair.
You're welcome. All right. Let's see. We are going to. Okay. Do I have a motion? We have the motion. All in favor say aye for Foothill Eastern.
Aye.
And for San Joaquin Hills? Aye. It was approved unanimously. We are moving to the last item, item number 16. Ms. Amy Potter, the floor is yours. And by the way, this is Foothill Eastern item only.
Do my presentation? My presentation? It's the bond refinancing. Okay, well, I'll go through verbally, I guess. I'm not sure why we don't have the presentation.
Where is
We
it?
do. Okay, So as mentioned, this is a Foothill Eastern only item, and really what it is it's an opportunity to reduce our debt payments significantly throughout the life of the bonds without maturing any, without extending any of the maturity dates. And so what we are looking at here is that rather than waiting until the call date on some of our bonds, which is 2024, we can do a bond refunding by issuing taxable municipal bonds. And the reason that we can do this is that rates have decreased significantly, as you see there. And so now, typically, taxable bond rates are much higher than tax-exempt bond rates. And so it wouldn't make financial sense for us to be able to do this, but this has created a unique opportunity. And you may have heard of a lot of other entities taking advantage of this right now, and they're out in the market doing the same thing. So what we have here before you today is we're looking at our 2049 and 2053 maturities, which are at 6%. And so by issuing these new bonds in the 4% range, we can save a lot by reducing our interest payments every year. We also, have these other bonds here that I've listed at the bottom that are callable as well in 2024 or some in 2022. And it is still the goal of the board, I believe, to pay down some bonds when they're callable. This does not prohibit us from doing that. In fact, it would enhance it, in my opinion, by creating additional cash flow. And so, once again, what this does is it reduces our payments every year, does not extend any bond maturity dates. It would improve our debt service coverage, which helps us with our credit ratings, which then will translate into lower cost refundings in the future. And also, we would put a 10-year call 10-year call on these bonds to make sure that we retain that flexibility when we have another opportunity to refund them again for savings. And so what I'm showing you here is two scenarios. One is if we don't contribute any cash, we're looking at reducing our payments over the life of the bonds by $140 million, which translates into a present value savings of 12.9%. What we have before you today is that anything above 3% is something that we would consider doing. And so we're really in a good range here right now to try to get into the market. And if we can capture these rates, we would have significant savings. The other alternative here is if we contribute $75 million of cash, then after getting back our $75 million, that $140 million in reduced interest payments becomes $206 million. And so really the two items here for you today. And if we were to contribute the cash, basically that's where I just show you that we would pay ourselves back in the first 7 years with the $75 million and then realize the additional decrease in our payments and cash flow savings of $206 million after that. We also, of course, there's always fees included in any bond transaction. Those are already in the numbers that I showed you, so the savings are net of the fees. The majority of these fees are contingent upon us completing the transaction. The ones that are not are bond counsel and disclosure counsel. We were able to reduce those costs greatly because we had just done the term rate bond transaction, which a lot of the disclosure was already done for that. And some of the rating agency fees also would be non-contingent. So next steps is if with board approval today, we would work with the rating agencies and try to get our ratings by November. So, and also finalize the documents that you have in draft form today. And then we would begin marketing these bonds and pricing in early December and try to close before the holidays in December. That's assuming that the market is still there, because it is, as you are aware, the market is very volatile. Rates are up and down. So this is just really for the approval today would be so that we are prepared and that we could take advantage of this opportunity at the right time. And so with that, the items before you, the first item is to approve a resolution that authorizes the transaction itself and allows us to, and approves the documents that are in draft form and allows us to finalize those. The second is a budget resolution, And that is to contribute up to 75 million in cash into the transaction. And then the third is to authorize the CEO to execute a contract amendment with our financial advisors, PFM. We have a contract with them currently, but whenever we do a bond transaction, we need an amendment for that. And so those are the items before you today.
Thank you very much, Ms. Potter. This is Foothill Eastern only. Any discussions or questions?
Move it.
I actually have some comments.
Director
One
Scott
of my
Boyce is
concerns that,
recognized.
every time that we put extension on these bonds, there will be no extension on these bonds, so they'll be
No.
locked in at the present.
No change in dates, any of the maturity
payoff
dates. So
dates are
everything,
still the
all we're
same?
doing essentially is decreasing the payments.
Thank
It's
you
for
so much.
savings.
Okay, I'm good.
Director Ferguson?
I just want to make a comment, a compliment to Ms. Potter, because I think this is extremely fiscally responsible, and to save 200, potentially 206 million over the life of the bonds is really good fiscal prudence for the taxpayers. So thank you.
On behalf of Foothill, I'll move the item.
It was moved by
I'll
Director,
second.
questions?
Oh, yeah, I have a number of questions. Thank you.
Supervisor Chafee.
Yes, I just got on top of this week, and read the report. I don't know what the assumptions are for interest rates and what result of that. I haven't not had a chance yet to do my own market survey to see how this all jives. I believe we're in a time of where we're not risking rate increases. If anything, it would seem like we may see something lower. I started reviewing the documents. Some things are good, like in the indenture, principal interest on the Series 2019 A bonds, we pay any coin or currency in the United States and not Bitcoin. I think that's good. Then there's also, these are senior lien bonds. Can you explain that? We have their bonds outstanding. What does that do to any other maturities and bonds we have outstanding?
So we'll be replacing senior lien bonds with other senior lien bonds. The only junior lien bonds we have for Foothill Eastern are 198 million, and those are the ones that I'm actually targeting paying off potentially when they become callable in 2024. So all of our bonds, the majority of our bonds are senior lien.
Yeah, then what I was really looking for, I found back in the escrow agreement where it commits the money to pay off the 2013 bonds. And I had to dig for that. I didn't read much in between.
And that's because this is an advance refunding, and so rather
Right.
than
No,
waiting
I
until the
understand
call
that.
date.
But I did have some concerns because I didn't know your assumptions in arriving at the data. And so is there some assumption on what the interest rate would be on
So
the new
what
bond issue?
so what I showed you today, it was about 4.2%. Rates have moved a little. They go up and down. They went up a little and they came back down a little bit. So we don't know exactly what that will be when we go to market, but we're assuming that it's something in that range. And the authorization would not allow me to execute a transaction with a present value savings of less than 3%. So we would, but rates will change. They're going to either go up, which means we save less, or they'll go down, which means we save more.
At what point would you not want to do the transaction if the rates go higher?
If we have a present value savings of less than 3%.
Less than 3%. So you're comfortable at the 13%? Is that what the projection is?
That's extremely good savings, yes.
Okay, and then I was a little concerned because when we have two bond issues outstanding, which this will do, actually doubling the amount of bonds, we're paying interest on both at the same time and to a point in time.
Well,
is that correct?
So when we put them into the escrow account, it's an in substance defeasance. They come off of our books, and the savings that I showed you is net of all of that. So it is true that with an advanced refunding, we can start saving now by putting the proceeds of the new bonds we issue into an escrow account that pays the interest on the bonds that we're refunding, the 2013 bonds, through the call date of 2024, and then pays them off in 2024. But overall, since we're issuing bonds at a much lower rate than those 6% bonds, overall there's a decrease in our payments every year beginning from today, rather than having to wait until 2024 to try to refund them.
Well, isn't that, though, true because the interest on the new bond issue is included in advance in the escrow? In other words, there is an interest payment.
On
we're
the
making.
old bonds. So the existing bonds that we have, the 820 million that I'm proposing to refund at, because they're at a higher rate, 6%.
Right.
So we will basically pay those off by issuing these new
But not
bonds at a
until
lower rate.
2024.
They'll be paid off in 2024, but through an escrow. So they come off of our books because we're putting safe investments, treasuries into this escrow account
They're
to
off the
cover all
books,
of
but
the
interest
payments.
is still due and payable on both issues.
Right,
until
but it's
2024.
less. So what happens is the numbers that I showed you here with the savings are net of all of those prepaid interest amounts that you need to put in the escrow account along with the proceeds to pay off those bonds in 2024. So it's because it's 6% versus 4 point something. So you save. So even though you have to put the prepaid interest for the bonds that we're paying off into an escrow account, we're saving so much by decreasing the payments, and we get to realize that immediately that it's an overall savings.
I don't understand that math,
Do you
how
want help?
you have double the amount of bonds outstanding and that you're saving interest.
The bonds outstanding, it's different. As Amy had said, once we deposit money into the escrow, the bonds that are the 13A, 49 and 53 maturities that are outstanding will no longer be outstanding.
But they have to have the interest paid even though they're not
They will
outstanding.
need, yes, we will be funding the interest payable on those bonds through the call date in the escrow and from the refunding issue, including the cash that's deposited. So the proceeds plus the cash is going to be a sufficient amount to put in an escrow, enough to pay the interest through 2024 and then call the bonds.
Well, I understand that, but so you're putting enough in escrow to not only pay the interest on the bonds due in 2024, but also on the new issue.
The
So we're
escrow
funding
won't
that
pay
interest
the escrow
twice.
doesn't pay the money or the interest on the new issue. The agency would pay that money because that will be the new outstanding bonds. The differential between the two and the cost of depositing the money in escrow, and we've made a very conservative assumption about escrow investments. The goal is to enhance those escrow investments as we've done in a number of transactions around the country. Those costs are all assumed in the savings numbers that we've shown you. So the 100+ million, the 206 million are all net of those costs, net of the deposit, net of paying the interest on the old bonds, calling the old bonds in 2024. So all that is in the numbers.
Okay, well, I'd kind of like to see that laid out on a mathematical page, 'cause I still don't accept that. As
That's fine.
the bonds, the 2024 bonds, we're putting in advance money into an escrow to pay that, so there is an interest payment there.
Sure. Yes.
And then we're paying the interest on the new bonds out of our cash flow on an
Right.
ongoing basis.
Right.
Is that
And
correct?
that's the differential in cost.
Okay, so but it's 4 plus 6 until we reach 2024.
It's the money deposited in the escrow is also earning interest.
How much?
So it's the interest, I think we're assuming 150 right
1%?
now or something like that.
Well, see, it never
But-
quite gets up there.
Well, it's
No,
just,
it's not gonna-
a function of the fact that we're replacing 6% bonds with 4% bonds. So mathematically, it all works out.
Well, I know after 2024, it makes great sense, because you paid off the one issue.
It works overall, actually, and that's what this
Well,
is showing here.
To 2050, yeah, but.
Yeah, these are the transactions that everyone is doing across the country, so as not to bet on where interest rates might be at the particular call dates. So when they have the bird in hand, the savings in hand, knowing that they are financing interest on the old bonds through an escrow. Same structure.
So let me say
There
one,
are benefits.
let me say it one more way. So after this all happens, so if this were to go through and say it were these rates and what I'm showing you here today, is that, next year's budget, well, let's say the 2021 budget. So starting that next year, you're going to see in your budget 11 million less in payments that we need to make on our bonds. And that's the structure here, is how that's showing you the savings every year. So even though we put money into an escrow that's going to cover all that, there was so much savings in replacing 6% bonds with 4% bonds and we were able to then match the current maturities we have today. So like we said, no extension of any maturity dates. So you can see there that in the back end, the savings is less, but it's fine. It's like we were able to keep all of that savings up front. And so we're actually reducing our payments, and that's what you would see like in your budgets when you approve it the next year is $11 million a year less through 2043. And then it's very small after that it's less.
I get all that, but to me, that's illusory because you have that savings there, but you still had to make payment on both issues.
No.
Well, yes, you do because
you
you
don't.
do one payment through the escrow.
No, you don't.
Right? Haven't you funded that
No,
in the escrow?
that's incorrect. You've made your payments on the outstanding bonds that are being refunded through the escrow.
That's right. I just said that.
Through the escrow. So those payments are accounted for in these numbers. So there's no double payment. The payments that the agency is making on their debt service are lower by these amounts every year, according to the current estimates that we have for interest rates.
Well, to me, that's smoke and mirrors, but.
Could I maybe
It's-
ask a quick question? Okay,
Chair
just-
Christina Shea, final question.
Yeah, sure. Just a quick for clarity, because I think, Amy, you're getting to the point. So every year by refunding these bonds or basically they're not refinanced, but basically we could think about it like that. We're paying off these present bonds, but we still owe the interest, right?
But
Is that
it's
correct?
no longer on our books. We put it
Right,
into
I
an escrow.
I understand
Right.
that, but the
Yes.
bonds are paid off and now we have new ones.
Right.
And every year we're saving 11 million
Right.
on the interest payment and the bonds that we have to pay every year.
Right.
So in the escrow account for the next 4 years, give us a dollar figure of what that interest would be. So I think that
I think
would
it
help.
was about 60 some million.
Is that
66
over
million
4
total.
years?
Yeah, over the 4 years.
So we would owe $60 million.
But it's
on
put in
interest.
there up front, right?
Right, and it would be making a little bit of interest, but not a lot. But
Sure.
you're saying that over the course of the 4 years, getting the extra 11 million,
Mhm.
right?
Yes.
But you're only getting up to 44 million 4 years later. So how do you make up the differential of the interest that's owed for the 60 million in 4 years compared to the increase or the extra we'll have, which is 11 million per year? Am I getting that right? That's what I think may be the confusion. Is that correct? So we have an additional 11 million with this refinance, right, each year? Which
Yeah,
at the
so
end
our
of 4
overall
years would be
payments will
44
drop,
million,
And we
right?
don't have to worry anymore about the old bonds because they're.
But the bonds are paid off, but you still have an overhead of 60 million in
No,
the escrow
we
to pay
don't.
off.
We don't because we take the proceeds, we put everything that's needed into that escrow that comes off of our books. It's not our responsibility because it's with very safe.
So you're putting the additional, right, at
interest.
the
Right.
time of
Right.
refinance of the 60 million into escrow.
Correct.
Okay, so that's already the extra money we've got. On
Yes.
top of that extra money, with still making interest, we have 11 million additional every year we're getting on the other side.
Yes.
So that's what I think how we need to explain it.
Well, I still see it differently. The 11 million that we're paying is net after we have paid off the interest on the new issue. That's the differential that we would have paid in budget purposes between the 6% and the assumed 4%. But you've still paid the 4%. And you've also paid the 60 million in advance, yes, through the escrow. And so it's one plus the other, 1 plus 2. And that's where I'm coming from. And so to me, that's an illusory savings because you're paying interest on both issues until the other one is paid off. One is pre-funded through the additional money than this new bond issue is providing. The part of that is for interest payments.
I think if you look at it more simplistically, that it is a complete replacement of the outstanding obligation you have on those two maturities, the 2049 and the 2053 maturities. So what you're doing, you are financing what it costs to pay those in full, interest and principal, until the call date, and substituting that debt with this new debt, which is about $11 or $12 million less per year.
Right now.
Well, that is still illusory because you've already paid in advance for the other interest cost, and you're not accounting for that. It's
No,
off your budget sheet, yes.
No, you are accounting for it in the financing.
Yes.
In your
And
budget?
it's because it's so much lower. The new bonds are so much lower.
No, I understand all that, but it's What I'm also concerned about all the millions in fees that are contingent upon the transaction happening. So it's a lot of pressure to make it happen, whether or not it's advisable. So I am inclined I like the idea of the savings. I understand that a lot, but there really are two separate interest payments going on until 2024.
Yeah, the numbers are all net of all the costs, fees, and the escrow, they're all net of that.
In the interest of time, I mean, this item should have been discussed more during the Investment and Finance Committee, with all due respect, Supervisor Chafee. Your points are well taken, but at this juncture, we have a motion that on the floor for Foothill Eastern only, which was presented by Director Chuck Puckett. Do I see a second? It was seconded by Director Lucille Crane. We're gonna go for the vote, but please
Just a
fast.
Quick question. So right now, we're looking at a 13% savings, correct?
Right.
And you said you'd be okay with down to a 3%.
Mhm.
How are we gonna determine when you're gonna pull the trigger on this? I mean, I don't know if at 3% we would actually have made this move, because the dollars may not make sense to us. I don't know what the dollar amount is at 3% that we would save.
25 million, something like that.
But again, I don't know that I
PV,
would.
25 million.
Net
I don't
of
know.
all the fees and everything.
So
yes.
how do we, is there a way that we could put like if you don't get this savings, you don't go? I don't know. I mean.
Well, that's the parameters right now.
Right now, we've got a
are 3%.
10% swing in here. That's pretty
Right,
big.
right.
And-
So it's some, it would, right, you could change the parameters rather than the resolution right now, which is 3%.
Okay. I'm not sure where my number is right now. It's just something I thought
It's
about.
hard to
so.
do it on the fly. I think
It's
3%
hard to
seems
do.
pretty
How much-
hefty.
How much would you
All right.
like?
Okay, well, there's a
13%.
motion and it was seconded. All in favor on behalf of Foothill Eastern, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone against?
I'm abstaining.
Okay, with abstaining of Supervisor Chafee. All right, I don't see any other request to speak forms for the second portion of public comments. Now we're moving to the CEO's quick
I'll make
report.
my comments after closed session.
Very good. All right, we are going to be adjourning this meeting to the
Chair?
closed session meeting.
Just really quickly, can I make a comment for directors' reports, comments?
Less than 1 minute. The
Sure,
floor
yeah, I
is
just
yours.
wanted to thank, so we had a San Clemente Town Hall last night regarding TCA's
We're gonna
efforts,
do
and I
that
wanted to especially thank Mr. Chesney, Mr. Spears, and Mr. Simpson for spending an evening with us, talking to our community. It's not always easy to come down when you have a robust and passionate group, but I thought they were very professional, and I appreciated their time, and I wanted to also thank Mr. Chamberlain for having a Caltrans District 12 representative there as well. Thank you.
They're not bleeding, and I was worried about that.
So noted. So noted.
Mr. Chair, shall we announce the closed session?
Yes.
Okay. Both agencies will be convening a closed session regarding public employee performance evaluation under Government Code 54957. Regarding the Chief Executive Officer, we do not anticipate reportable action.
Christina doesn't look happy.
I'll be here for moral support.
It's gonna be a quick one.
Okay.
Yes, I'm gonna turn it over to. All right, the meeting is back on. There is no reportable action regarding the closed session meetings discussions. At this juncture, I wanted to ask our CEO for his report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As I'm sure many of you know and have heard, Orange County lost a great man, leader, war hero, and inspiration to many of us with the passing of Bill Woolett last week. In addition to serving as the first city manager of Irvine and also Aliso Viejo, TCA was incredibly fortunate to have Bill serve as its first full-time CEO for 10 years from 1989 to 1999. He then returned to lead the agencies from 2005 through August of 2007. Bill's entire career was one of public service, and as we celebrated Veterans Day this week, I would be remiss if I didn't mention his dedication to country, having served in both World War II and the Korean War. A decorated war veteran, he was a member of the U.S. Army 11th Airborne Division, 10th Ranger Company. Wounded in action, Bill was awarded the Purple Heart as well as the Silver Star Medal, the nation's third highest military decoration given for gallantry in action. Bill will be incredibly missed. I would ask that we adjourn today's board meeting in memory of Bill Woolett.
Thank you very much for your report. Director's comments, if any? None? Chair comments? None? The meeting is adjourned in memory of Bill Woolett.